So this is Bill Brower with FMBA Nation. We are coming to you from the Serve Pro studios here in Rahway, New Jersey. I got a great interview scheduled for today. Daniel Sundahl from dansunphotoart.com. He's actually going to be a guest speaker at our February educational convention. He's going to be talking to me today, and I got to be honest with you, some of the artwork that we've talked about or that we've seen from Daniel is really moving stuff. Daniel, thanks for joining me today. Give me a little bit of your background. What's your experience in the first responder community? And tell us a little bit about what your artwork is about.
Sure. So first, thanks for having me on your show. This is great. I'm excited to come and speak at the conference next year.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a full-time paramedic firefighter. I'm a career firefighter. We're an integrated service, so we do. I'm an advanced care paramedic as well. I've been doing that since full-time since 2003. I became an EMT in 1994, and over time, I started to develop these mental stressors, and I used artwork to process and purge these memories that I had. And I started doing that about 5 years ago. The first images that I did. It was never really my intention to share them with anybody,
Mm-hmm.
Because it was very personal to me. They're still personal to me.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, 5 years ago, I thought for sure that I would be, crucified for showing paramedics and firefighters in vulnerable states. So I never really intended to share them with anybody. But when I did finally, then kind of my world changed. I didn't really realize that my peers would attach their experiences to my images and connect with them so deeply, which was great for me because that really made me feel that I'm not alone and how I'm feeling when I create these images.
Sure.
So that still is my motivation to create this artwork. Is it's all based on my own calls, on my own experiences. None of the images are all photo based, but none of them are of actual calls that I've done. They'll all be staged, and then I
Gotcha.
photograph them. Then I digitally draw and paint on top of that photograph
Mm-hmm.
to get the look that I like.
Gotcha. Yeah, I was gonna ask you that. How obviously the staging you just mentioned, it was really interesting to see some of these pictures and the lifelikeness of them and the emotion behind it. And I was just curious myself to know how these images came about. Obviously, you said it's based on your experiences and things like that. So it's interesting to see. You say you stage these things, so it's almost like reliving that incident, that incident or those emotions resurfacing, and then trying to capture that in a picture. And
Mm-hmm.
what you're capable, what you're able to do with that image from an art standpoint is really incredible. I mean, you got a really special talent there.
Oh, thank
Um,
you.
how did you kind of get started in this? Do you have a background in photography? Was it just kind of a hobby, or is this something that came about as, like you said, the therapeutic methods to deal with those stressors that you were, living with on the job?
Yeah, I kind of did the photography anyways, kind of in a similar style,
Hmm.
but I didn't start using that as a form of my therapy until 5 years ago. Um, and that's kind of when things changed for me. So yeah, I've always been, I play guitar too for
Hmm.
therapy, but I suck at it. So no one really cares about, no one wants to interview me about my guitar playing, but
Right.
it's therapeutic for me as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, you're right. I stage the images and it may not seem like a therapeutic thing to do, reliving it,
Hmm.
but the process, when I stage it, I make sure that I kind of prep everyone that's in the image. Um, but the staging the photographs pretty quick. It takes me about a week to do each picture, and during that week, I'm really emotionally involved in that
Hmm.
image and in that scene. And it's like I purge that memory from my mind into this one-dimensional picture, and then when I'm done, it's like that memory is trapped forever in that one picture. So yeah, it's really cathartic and therapeutic for me to do this.
Yeah, it's very powerful. I mean, like I said, when you look at the artwork, just the emotion within that piece, I think it connects to a lot of people. We talk about mental health awareness, PTSD, and those stressors that come with our jobs. And that could be anywhere from, a paramedic, a firefighter, police officer, dispatcher, EMTs, hospital workers. I noticed on your website you got some military stuff. I mean, those guys and gals dealing with um, those stressors overseas and abroad is immense. So to see that connection, to see somebody like yourself using this as therapeutic, I think it can connect to a lot of people in our community. I'm sure it already has in your experience. And I'm excited for you to come to the convention in February and share this with our members. I feel like a lot of our guys can touch base with that. I know I personally, I'm a career firefighter here in New Jersey, and I also work part time as an EMT for a police department here in New Jersey. And as you know, the different things that we come across on a daily basis, we're exposed to so many more things than the average person. It's challenging to figure out how to deal with those emotions, and sometimes they don't show up for quite a while. You mentioned 5 years ago you started getting into this. Was there a specific event or a specific thing that happened to you that turned you to this artwork as a form of therapy, or is this a kind of a compilation of just stuff building up inside that allowed you to use this as a release?
Yeah, for me, it wasn't really one specific event
Hmm.
um, that that really kind of was the turning point for me.
Hmm.
For the longest time.
Hey guys, Bill Brower here with FMBA Nation. I wanted to take a minute to tell you about ServPro of Central Union County and Western Essex County. These guys are a trusted leader in the restoration industry. They provide 24-hour residential commercial services with highly trained restoration technicians. They're a locally owned and operated business, and they're dedicated to being faster to any size disaster with the training, equipment, and expertise to handle your restoration and cleaning needs. Some of the things that they cover are water damage restoration, fire damage restoration, mold remediation, storm damage restoration, cleaning services, and building services, to name a few. These guys understand the stress and worry that comes with a fire or water damage and the disruption it causes to your life and home or business, and their goal is to help minimize the interruption to your life and quickly make it like it never even happened. Our friends over there, Carl Spinner and Bob Morrison. Carl has over 25 years of experience in the industry. Bob Morrison has over 35 years of service industry sales experience. So don't hesitate to give them a call. You can reach them at 908 233 7070.
Thought that PTSD was, you're normal, and then you have that one event, and then you're impaired.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but in my case, it was a long career of constant stressors, of a lot of calls, and I didn't realize that that could have the same effect. Um, so yeah, I have many calls that I describe them as these organic memories
Mm-hmm.
that pop into my mind uninvited.
Sure.
Um, and when I purge them into that one-dimensional picture, that it doesn't happen anymore. And when I create the images, I try to recreate how I felt versus what I saw.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I'm done, that those images don't pop into my head anymore.
Wow.
So I still have a lot of images I need to process, and it's not even specifically calls. It's some of the feelings or emotions
Mm-hmm.
that I have, or the things that I experience over time as new things pop up. Uh, I feel better if I can express it in kind of this complex idea into one image. Um, so I guess I'm lucky. I'm able to do that for myself and others. I guess.
Yeah, and that kind of leads me into my next question for you. I know that you are a somewhat of a, I guess, not a motivational speaker, but a speaker, and you talk about your artwork and mental health awareness, PTSD, and dealing with those using your artwork. I know you go around the country to different conferences. You've got another one coming up here on November 21st in Covington, Kentucky. You're coming to our convention in February. In your experiences during your travels, doing these events and whatnot, um, have you connected with other people and have they shared their stories with you and how your artwork has helped others in dealing with their mental health issues?
Yeah, that happens quite a bit, and I do travel, and I'm not a motivational speaker. I don't
Right,
think.
right,
I don't.
yeah.
I'm not a mental health professional.
Mhm.
I don't tell people to do stuff. What I do is I go and just speak as your peer, right? So I present myself as a fellow firefighter, a fellow paramedic, fellow emergency worker,
Sure.
and I share what happened to me. So I share the signs and symptoms that I had, but what I focus on during my presentation is I focus on what I did to get better, and then I talk about post-traumatic growth, which is, you know, a concept that a lot of people really aren't familiar with. But it's like this silver lining around this dark cloud that, potentially, if you have this impairment, then, if you do the work uh, to get better and essentially rewire your mind in that process, you can end up at a higher level you were before the impairment. So it's actually quite exciting, and that's what happened to me, and that's what I share. Um, and my message is if I can do this, uh, and I was at one point in a very dark space,
Mhm.
suicidal, almost took my life.
Wow.
Um,
Mhm.
so I went from that to now traveling actually around the world, really. Um, so yeah, I'm really lucky that I'm able to do that, and yeah, I do connect with a lot of my peers that way. Um, but it's and I think because of that, that's how I get invited to these other conferences because I'm able to do that.
Yeah, it's really amazing. You know, I think whether you realize it or not, I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that have either visited your website. I know you have a book on Amazon called Portraits of an Emergency. Um, that looked like a really interesting piece. I know you've been featured, your artwork's been featured in EMS World, GEMS Magazine, the Canadian Paramedicine, and the International Critical Incident Stress Foundation had some publications with your artwork published in as well. So I would imagine there's a lot of people out there that probably experience your artwork and the emotions within it, and you probably don't even know that or realize that your therapy, your therapeutic, um, you know, uh, your therapy here stretches further than we can probably even fathom. So it's really
Yeah.
amazing to see what you're doing and to be able to take that gift, that talent that you have in terms of the art, and really make a connection with the first responder community here in such an epidemic topic. I think there's a really large stigma that's attached to mental health awareness and PTSD. And I think it's something that over time we're gradually overcoming, and more people are realizing that it's no longer a stigma or should not be a stigma, that we all deal with it. We all have to come to terms with that. And, I hope that your artwork and what you're doing there really helps alleviate or erase that stigma when it comes to our community.
Yeah, I'm doing my best. Yeah, of course, I'm very passionate about the topic,
Hmm.
and I think there's a lot of power in peer support, um, and I have pretty thick skin, so I have no problem going to other conferences and kind of shaking the tree, so to speak, and
Sure.
and then leaving. It's easy, but yeah. So my talk is pretty emotional, and it's very authentic. And yeah, I talk a lot about stigma, and I talk a lot about the things that I think we're doing wrong, and the damage that we're doing that I think that we could change. Um, and I think it will. I think of the changes that have happened just even over the last 5 years, have been really amazing.
Hmm.
Uh, so yeah, I think we're going in the right. Long ways to go, but I think we're going in the right
Sure.
direction.
Yeah, absolutely. Those that are watching this, you will see behind me, I've got a piece of your artwork that's the background here. And what's kind of been, I mean, I know a lot of this is emotionally tied and whatnot, and some of the artwork you have is very deep and dark, which I don't really necessarily look at negatively. I think it's a positive thing. But what's kind of been, I don't want to say favorite, but what's been your what's the piece that you've created that has kind of been like your favorite, and what was the inspiration behind that piece? Do you have a specific one that you like better than the
Yeah,
others?
I do, and it's funny because it's probably the darkest one that I
Yeah.
have. So for me, as an artist, or how the process works is that it starts off as an emotion that I have,
Mm-hmm.
and then I try to find an image that best portrays that emotion,
Mm-hmm.
and then that I have that in my head, and then I try to recreate that image. So the more accurate and authentic I can be in that process, so that the end image most closely relates to the initial emotion I have,
Mm-hmm.
that's when I those are the images I feel most connected to.
Yeah.
So the one that um, my favorite one is called "Demon Eats the Ambulance Driver," and it is really dark. It's the darkest one that I have,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a picture. And I call it "Ambulance Driver" on purpose, and I know that's very derogatory. And I got into a lot of trouble when I posted it that way, but I
Yeah.
meant to call it that.
Right.
And it's a picture of this paramedic who's literally being eaten by this big demon. Right, his arms are down, um, and it represents the moment of when you no longer feel you have the strength to carry on. It's the point of suicide.
Right.
It's the point of someone completing suicide where they no longer want to. Um, they don't have the power to defend themselves.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want to feel anything anymore. Um, they basically just ring the bell and tap out. Right. So that's what that picture is about.
Yeah.
And it's when I was done with it, yeah, it was very, very. And people that have been in that spot, like I've been
Mm-hmm.
close to that, very close to that spot, uh, people are very emotional, and I can tell the people that have been close because those are the people that get really, really emotional about it when they see it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's very powerful. That's a very powerful picture.
Yeah. Um, we're excited for you to come here in February. I think you'll have a lot of people coming up to you, trying to find out how they can go about purchasing your art. What's the best way that they can do that? Is Amazon or is it the website? If
Yeah,
you were to
probably the website's the best because the website has the links to my calendar, which I do every year, and I
Mhm.
donate that money to cancer. Or my book. I have a new book. My third book's coming out. Should be getting it from the printers in a few weeks. But if you go to dansunphotos.com or dansungallery.com,
Mhm.
you can order any of my images, any size you want. Um, so that's the best place to get them.
Gotcha. You just released your 2020 calendar. Tell us a little bit about that.
Mm. Yeah, so the calendar I do every year, the images are based on the last 12 months. And yeah, donate the money to kids with cancer. And the great thing this year, I was in Finland twice.
Mhm.
I was in Australia, and I traveled, did lots and lots of traveling this year. So the images, I know there's lots from Finland in there. I don't know if we even have some from Australia there, but it kind of represents the last year. And I kind of picked the 12 that I kind of my 12 favorite images, and I try to make sure that most of the services are incorporated. And yeah, I only order limited amounts of them every year, and I sell out every year.
Wow.
But yeah, then I'd give the money to kids with cancer.
That's great. I mean, be able to give back like that and really have that connection, I think is special. I just wanted to say, thank you again for coming on here today, sitting down, and I really truly anticipate a lot of our members having a personal connection with you and your artwork when they get to see everything in February. And don't forget to check out dansunphotos.com. Check out his artwork. The images are moving, and I think a lot of our listeners and members can make a connection to that. So, Dan, thanks again for joining me today, and
Yeah,
look
my
forward
pleasure. Thanks
to
for having me on.
yeah, look forward to meeting you in person in February.
Yeah, you too. Thanks.
All right, great. All right, guys, thanks for listening to another great episode of FMBA Nation, and stay tuned for some more great content to come. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You can also listen on the NJFMBA YouTube channel, as well as Apple Podcasts, Anchor, and the Google Play Store. And if you're interested in becoming a sponsor of the FMBA Nation podcast, please email us at nation@njfmba.org.